So yeah. So then when I was out there, I realized that something else has got to get done. This isn't doing it. All I'm doing is delivering some mediocre snack bars, some water, and then I'm doing the same thing tomorrow. And the few clients that get into rehab, they come out, they get transitioned into a shelter bed, they get priority. The whole shelter clients treat them like, oh, you think you're better than us? Hey, look here, I know your addiction is heroin. Look, you want some for free, until they fall. And so you can't break that cycle. And so I, after doing a lot of research, pulling from my schooling and my now experience on the job, I created this thing that eventually became known as nomadic communities. And the idea there was to set up communities of tiny homes, which is kind of old hat now at this point. This is 2 years ago, but they're doing this everywhere now. And having a communal area. So the idea was all of the shelters faced inwards to the community. And then in the center would be things like, you know, an approved fire pit, maybe some art easels, gardens, whatever. And there'd be one spot where you could charge phones and a common eating area. Right. Because what would happen is your average person that is homeless, I can tell you right now, what'll get them off the street, virtually every homeless person, is to tell them that they can go to a spot that's their own. So 70% of the homeless population do not want to go into a dorm style shelter because they know, or they've been there and they've been raped there, they've been beaten there, they've been drugged there, they've been encouraged in their bad behavior. Yeah. It's just hard. The county does what they can and they do a fantastic job, but there's only so much you can do 24 hours a day with minimal funding. And so they're not allowed to have cameras in the dorms. I asked about that. It's against the law for them to have cameras in the dorm because that's where all the dealing was going on. You know, all this stuff. And so I set up this system, and the idea was to tell someone in the field when I'm working for C.O.R.E, hey, you know, that girl, for instance, that I told you the story of, I can get you into a community and you can have your own place. And so I designed this 1-year care system where separated into quarters. This is all initial. It's transformed since then, but where the first 3 months, basically the first quarter, it's just physical and emotional stabilization. So here's the keys to your place. You can go in and lock it. When you sleep at night, you're going to be safe. There'll be someone on site to make sure no one's trying to break in. Right. And if they do, they're done. And when you leave during the day, your stuff will be locked up so it won't be stolen. And there'll be someone here watching all the places.
This is safety and security there.
Yeah. So what we find when we bring someone off the streets for the first time is usually they'll sleep for about 3 solid days. They won't even wake up to go to the bathroom or eat. Wow. And so we force them up because you got to eat. You gotta go, but they're so exhausted from trying to survive, right? This is the mindset of the person who starts out as, hey, this is camping 365 for free. This is awesome. Yeah. Well, this is where their life devolves to. And so they would probably just do that. But then you're also trying to get them set up on, you know, get them seen by a doctor. A lot of them have medical needs, diabetes, ADD, you know, schizophrenia, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But they get the meds and then they forget it in their own illness or someone steals them. Right. So trying to get them stabilized with meds and stabilize seeing a counselor to start working through issues. And they don't have to interact with anybody. But if they want to eat, they've got to at least walk into the community eating area and grab some food. Right. Very gently. They're not forced around people or anything. If they want to charge their phone, that's where it's going. If they and then if they want to sit on the porch of their shelter by themselves, they're at least looking inward at the rest of the community. So they're slowly kind of
being integrated into that.
And some people would jump in and just be immediately there, but a lot of them would have some and then try and work a system a little, and then you got so. And then the second phase, you would start trying to get them employed. So you would help them build resume skills. You would kind of talk to them about what they're skilled in, you know, just all that stuff. Yeah. You're dealing with people that are starting with disabilities of some kind and moving them forward in life. And you'd also work with local businesses to try and get them employed.
And what are some of those businesses or types of businesses that you would either work with or maybe might be good ins for, helping people into that?
So if you'll notice a lot, not always, but a lot of your baggers at grocery stores are probably people with disabilities. That tends to be a heavy hire. And so the next time you get your groceries bag, you're gonna be like, is this guy offered? But I think it's great because it's a low stress job. They just got to put stuff in a bag.
Right.
And so, you work with local businesses to local grocery stores. Maybe you connect them with janitorial work. There's a lot of things that don't require, a lot of skill sets.
Right.
And that brings me to the third section of that year, which is, I called it the Jeremiah 29:11, just giving people a vision for a future, right? To prosper and grow in. And so that one would be sitting down with them and saying, dream a little with me. I ask the question a lot, especially of young adults too. What does your life look like? Your best life? Like if you caught all the breaks, what does that look like 5 years from now? And then nailing them down, like where are you living? Okay, what are you living in? What's your car? What car do you have?
We've had this conversation before,
Yeah. I've prompted you with that, I'm sure. What are you married? Are you single? Do you have kids? Just trying to get them dreaming. And what do you do for a living? You caught all the breaks. You got to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that brings out not only corporate jobs, but also artists, musicians, anything, where they think that is shut down, or a lot of homeless people get pretty skilled at working in their cars to keep them running. And so maybe and then pursuing those companies, maybe it's a trade school or whatever, like here's this person that really wants a trade, you can make a difference in their life,
right?
Can we get a scholarship? Or working with the local government.
What I know, speaking of working with the local government, one of the things when I was in the Conservation Corps, that's a huge place. And I don't know the age demographic of people that you're or that all you were. That's what I assumed, all over. But I know for the Conservation Corps, if you're 18 years old, or sometimes I think if you're like 17 and a half, like they'll let you under certain circumstances, but 18 to 25, you can join the Conservation Corps. They pay you. They pretty much provide all the housing and food that you need. And then they give you, the people you're networking with when you're on the job anyway. These people literally build trails, do a lot of park work, firefighters, like everywhere, few and far between. Huge opportunity for people.
That's awesome.
And they're really accepting of pretty much everybody. And their rules are like, don't be on site high or influence of drugs or anything like that, or while you're working. And then while you're in there too, they also, part of the program is they put you through college. They have professors that come in and will do a couple classes. I think you have like 3 or 4 classes you get credit for per semester. It's some basic gen ed stuff, but
that's all right.
So it helps build that foundation for people.
It would actually take a lot of drive, because you've told stories about this many times about just how grueling that work is.
It's okay. So their motto is hard work, low pay, miserable conditions.
Nice.
It's great.
I'm ready. Let's
go. And it's one of those things. If you want to move ahead there, you can get by just doing the bare minimum. Now, someone like me, I'm a little bit more driven, a little bit more out there, just want to see things grow and move forward. So for me, I also got to be in the upper echelons of some of the cool things that were happening there, going to the Virgin Islands and whatnot. So there's different levels, and then you also have your actual, ranks. I'm not sure actually what they exactly called it. I'm just going to refer to them as ranks within there as well.
You also get to actually see the change happening in front of you.
And the skills you learn, like I just got to do a heck of a lot of yard work at my house, build a fire pit and all these things. It's just because of random stuff I've learned through there. So I always think that that's a super great opportunity. And there's so many locations all around.
And when you're in like a 1-year program like I've designed, you'll be lucky to start that program, right?
Right.
But that's not the point. I'm not, I kept telling everybody, this isn't Scott's program. This isn't even Nomadic Communities program. It's something to give people vision, right? And it's interesting. We started this conversation with poverty of the spirit, right? And now I'm thinking, wow, this has been a consistent thing all the way through. But it's just trying to give people a vision. So like maybe we'll get them started on the process, and they'll be off with the money they're already earning, renting a room from somebody down the road. That's the last quarter, is getting them housed.
Right.
but they'll be starting this big dream of artistry and stuff too. And then when they walk across that friend on the street that used to be their dealer or used to use with them, they'll have the nerve to go, I've got this whole big dream now. I'm not willing to sacrifice it. Because the other thing I've been saying about this COVID thing, I think it's really great for you two, for your generation, is you haven't seen a generation where we could be home. Imagine what would you do if you had no computer or cell phone access in your life or internet. There was no internet. I'm old enough where, pre-1980, almost no one had a computer or a cell phone. We had beepers. That was for the drug dealers. And we all joked about because it was so high tech. And, cordless phones were just coming out. And so you had to interact with each other and play games, kick the can, tag, hide and seek, whatever.
Well, I remember that when I was a kid growing up, we had our best friends were right across the street, and we were always doing something outside.
You knew your neighbor. I think that's one of the big difference. You knew your neighbor, and even through this, it's been interesting. I think that's one of the things we've talked about before. Maybe we've talked about, but that kind of idea of if you have all the time in the world, and obviously it's a little bit evolution of what you were saying, but if you had all the time in the world, like a lot of people do right now, what would you do with that? And if your excuse has always been, I don't have enough time in the day, I'm too tired, this and that, it's like, well, now we have all that.
Although a caveat to that now is that we've discovered that this not really having a clear view of that end point, which I think ties back into the issue with this homelessness, because they're stuck in this loop.
Right.
We have a smaller version of that right now where we're just living the same day over and over and over again.
And it's flown by. 2 months have just disappeared.
It feels like March, and it's May 8th, 9th.
Yeah. Oh my God.
We're so angry when we realize how much time we had and we didn't learn to play guitar or whatever.
I expect everybody to be an artist and everything.
Absolutely.
But back to what you were saying, I really think when you help people dream, when you help them discover a vision, you help them discover hope. When you help people discover hope, you really instill a drive in them. And that drive is what changes not only their world, but ultimately changes the world overall. And so, I think it's really important that, maybe someone else's vision isn't as quote unquote grandiose as mine or someone else.
I just really, really want to be an accountant.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be an accountant,
not a lot of frills there, but that's important work. And,
Oh, absolutely. And if that's what you want to be, and that's what your vision is, and that's what you're, do it. But it's really, I think it's so important to help people. And this is, I think, when I was, in youth ministry, that was a really big. Now it's just kind of starting to go out in those words for me, but was really big on helping the youth kids discover, that vision for the youth. What could this be? What could this be for not only for us inside the church, but what could we be in the community to actively help and actually be a presence there?
Right.
One of my favorite lines we dropped when we left one of the bars we worked at was, let your presence be known and your absence felt. And that was something that actually I think along those lines, Pastor Terry had asked us one day in our staff meeting. He had said, if Creekside was wiped out today, what would the community, or if your ministry was just gone, what would the community feel? How would it actually impact the community?
Right.
Would there be something missing? And for the longest time, we were all sitting there and we're like, well, actually, they could just go to this other church that would be provided. So there were things that we found that were just like, okay, like we actually do provide this unique aspect of helping the community. But it was very interesting, kind of a thought-provoking thing to just kind of be like, whoa, like what would the world be missing if you weren't there?
But here's the thing. So this is what, the Bible talks about the wisdom of the elders. And I used to be like, whatever. But I think this is what it is similar to anyway, is that, the world I grew up in, you only had a full-time job with benefits, right?
What's that like?
Yeah, exactly. And, we joke about that, but you guys have grown up in a world where you have multiple part-time jobs. And so you're always working. I also grew up in a world where you would never get 2 days off separated. They always were together because you needed some time to decompress.
That extra day. I mean,
Yeah.
And
Saturdays
now
for the family, Sundays for
now
God.
that's
what they
not
do.
it. Yeah, now that's not it. And life has become so, between the economic price of things and the over-regulation from our government, in my humble opinion, so many things going on that it's driving people to homelessness. And then we forget the basics of this. So for instance, there are many people that are retiring right now in their late 60s and starting to draw Social Security retirement.
Okay.
The problem is their salaries are based on a lifetime of working that is, I started my job in high school. I was stoked when I got a raise to $3.35 an hour. Now, I had full-time job with full benefits with that minimum wage job because that's what every company did at the time. And that was Burger King, by the way.
People cared about their employees.
Yeah,
what?
Weird. But, so if I was to retire with that salary in today's world, which is not quite how Social Security works, but I might retire with a salary that's half what I have right now. And I'm hardly scraping by right now, right? And that was my only retirement. Then what happens is the average Social Security retirement check for someone retiring, well, my statistics are getting old now, retiring like a year and a half ago was just over $900 a month. And that was the average. Everyone I applied for, I swear to you, no one got over 1,000 and no one got under 900. It was weird. It was like, and I applied for many in the field. I learned how to do it. And so the Social Security will give you your retirement benefits immediately. They're wonderful at that. It's the only thing they're wonderful at, but they are wonderful at that. But it's going to be about $900 a month. Now imagine if you're in that boat and for whatever reason you didn't buy a house. So now you're in the rental market of the Bay Area looking for something for $900 a month.
Right.
Or if you're a married couple, you're looking for something for around $1,800 a month.
Still
That's
completely
maybe
a married
one-bedroom
couple.
apartment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what we're starting to see is the homeless population aging. And so I had clients that there was a couple I remember for sure that were in that boat, retired, and they had Social Security, but they slowly started, I guess their landlord adjusted for a while and then just couldn't do it anymore. And so they eventually ended up going from a middle-class family, everything great, mentally stable, no drug use really, or at least anymore. Cats,
that's
sitting in the ranch
factor.
house or whatever in the Bay Area. Now they're living with 2 cats in their Ford Explorer, and they're both at the Martinez Marina.
That's nuts.
They start drinking. One of them starts drinking really heavily, and she's a woman, so it leads her into other things. They end up splitting up, getting a divorce. She's been abused. He's still homeless, last I checked, down at the marina, and their lives are destroyed all in the course of like 2 years.
That's nuts.
And so we have to do something. One of the things I've been talking, but it's just worthless to talk about, why aren't we, even for you guys, not homeless, but and then for the homeless too, or the retired or whatever, why aren't we building high-rise apartment complexes that are 500 square foot studio units? I don't know about you. Have you been to IKEA?
Oh yeah, love IKEA.
Okay, in our 20s.
IKEA's great.
My whole house would be IKEA, but my wife has better taste than me. But when you walk, you go up the escalator, and then you go in, and that first thing on the right is like a whole apartment.
The displays are bigger than what we can actually access in this area. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So but if someone said to you, hey, I'll rent you that space of your own, an apartment actually, for $500 a month, you would probably jump at it.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Absolutely.
And so why aren't we building these we're building apartments that are like 1,500 square feet, maybe down to 1,000 if they're older. The new ones are bigger, and they're $3,000 a month. So no retired person is going to be able to afford that.
Right.
And so why aren't we building huge buildings with, instead of 100 units, they have 300 units. They're going to make up the money in rent, right? I mean, you rent 3 apartments for $500 in the space where you would have built one. You're still losing money. But why aren't we subsidizing this stuff and getting them built? Why aren't we, making the permitting process easier? Why? And maybe we don't need to make the profit range that they are, but we have to start looking out for each other, because this is causing what we've all, enjoyed in a post-apocalypse movies, and we can see this happening where everybody starts fighting for each other because the resources are limited. And if we would just build apartments, you have your own little bathroom with a door, you have your own kitchenette and living room and bedroom all in one. Yeah.
Privacy and ownership.
Yeah. And if you're a married couple, you can live in there too. It's cramped, but look at the tiny home movement. Those are 300 square foot units. I'm talking a 500 square foot unit.
Right.
So it's actually two of those, and rent them out. And it doesn't have to be 500. It could be $750. And the problem is they'll put those up, and then the rents for those will go to $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff we're running around making this so complicated, and we don't have to. We need to provide people reasonable living space. We can build beautiful apartments that are 500 square foot units that are beautiful inside. If I was single, I would live in one.
Right.
And you could maybe build a pool or a weight room or whatever. It doesn't matter, but gym. But you have a place to live, and then there's groceries to take care of, but and utilities. But it goes such a long way for. If we could get it to a place where each person could self-sustain indefinitely for $1,000 a month, I think the United States, the Bay Area, that's all I really know, right? The Bay Area could just be completely transformed. And then that trickles down to working. Like, I know from my era, it's really beneficial to have one of the parents stay home if you have children. It's just good, to nurture each other and what have you. There's no way you're doing that in the Bay Area.
No.
But, think of my wife and I bring home thousands of dollars every single month, take home from our salaries. And we're doing okay, but we're scraping by.
Yeah.
My kids are doing sort of okay, but they're scraping by. I don't know what you guys are doing. And if you want to get into a meaningful line of work, that's my daughter's trying to, she's graduating in 2 weeks virtually.
I was about to be like, whoa.
Her senior picture is going to be in a hazmat suit with a cap and gown on. So I thought that was
so
amazing. But she wants to run a preschool that can handle children with special needs. That's her major. And she's not going to get rich doing that.
Right.
And
absolutely. Any sort of education.
Right.
It's your...
And you could argue that's the most important things. But we've got to make it so that she can afford to make a living.
Right.
And she can, because she has her old bedroom at my house. But... And she's actually relocating to Maryland because you can still do it on the East Coast.
Right.
What's what my cousin was doing? She lives in Maryland with her husband.
Oh.
She has recently had a kid and she's pregnant with another, so she's not really doing that anymore.
Yeah.
But that was exactly the kind of thing that she was doing. She was nannying. She was helping with education, and it was just a lot easier for her. She moved out age 20 or 21. She was in a home, like a house.
Yeah.
On a farm at 21. Whereas out here, that's just completely inconceivable. They're like,
you go buy a farm and just live out there for a while.
She had a farm with like 3 dogs, and it's just
that's the American dream right there.
Yeah, the American dream is the East Coast. You can, absolutely. I mean, and it's even cheaper. Everybody's going to North Carolina for exactly this reason. You can afford so much more for so much less.
Yeah.
You can stretch. You'd be, with your. I guess that
can they see that on the microphone?
No, they can't, which is probably for the best.
Make it rain.
Money, make it rain. Okay, I'm just making sure.
There you go.
Helping you out here.
All right, thank you. Anyway, you'd on several $1,000s, you could actually do something tangible, more than just basic subsistence and a little couple of fun things to do every now and again. But just in the Bay Area, we're so inflated,
and we're gonna see that change. I follow those trends and. I've been surprised that the Bay Area market, real estate market, hasn't crashed, and it looks like it's not going to. It's still going up. That's been a shock to me. But people are leaving, and
it's prohibitive at this point.
Speaking of people leaving,
we're losing population. Right
I know. Out of the blue, to me, I mean, obviously, I wasn't at the church when she was there anymore. But Eve, like when I found out she moved to Tennessee, I was like. What the heck?
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Make a living there.
Yeah.
she has connection there. So what it boils down to, and I'll show you this, guys, after this podcast concludes, but I guess it's not a podcast, whatever this thing is, a UCast. So what this boils down to is I have a gentleman who goes to our church here, wonderful man, no drugs, no alcohol, no mental illness at all, just a fantastic guy. And he fell into a deal 20-something years ago, 27, I think, where he was working for a construction company, and the guy said, hey, I've got this, what we now call in-law unit out in the backyard.
Right.
Would you like to rent it? $500 a month. And he said, well, it's a little steep, but it's a really nice area. Sure. And really steep. I know.
Just talking about
it's
these
27 years ago, right?
Right.
Yeah. So a year and a half ago,
he stays in the 90s,
the guy dies. He has a heart attack and died. Not the guy renting, but his construction boss and good friend dies.
Landlord, yeah.
Has a heart attack and dies. His rent's still $500 a month, and he's tailored his whole life around $500 a month. Wow. So if he was to retire, he's close. He's probably 60. I'd guess him to be about 63 or 4 or 5.
Okay.
But if he retired right now, it'd be based on his income, and it would be tough for him to pay $500 a month. So the landlord dies. His wife is really just upset, and in the middle of that upset, evicts him. Because she doesn't know him as much. And he totally understood it. He obviously was crushed, but he understood, and he left. So he is now, he's full-time employed. He's not here right now. I haven't seen him in weeks, and I kind of miss him because it was fun when this first broke out that we actually had him, quote, be our 24-hour in-house security.
Nice.
So
Junior Night Watch.
We trusted him enough, and this wasn't good, but we trusted him enough to give him a front door key. I bought a queen-size air mattress. We set it up in a children's ministry classroom that we're no longer using. This building is empty. And he was able to stretch out there and live for a little bit. His company stopped working when this started back up now. So he has a savings because he hasn't been spending money. He's been living in his truck at the end of my parking lot for a year and a half. And he's been on my heart, on everybody's heart. And he saved up enough that he bought a 24-foot driving RV. So they're built on the F-350 chassis.
Yeah.
It's parked right on the other side of a wall behind me here. And he's hooked up to our garden hose, and he plugs into our power. And he's been living here in our alley for 2 months in that RV. And while he's here, we're in a pretty affluent neighborhood, and the neighbors have been rough, and they've gotten better over the last years. And I was worried, and we had one of them come out and say to me very quietly one day, hey, Pastor Scott, is this guy actually living here? And I said, well, he's our 24-hour security guard. And she said, that is so awesome, because she had been watching it. I knew she was kind of okay with him because she'd been commenting to me every so often, is he okay sleeping out in the truck? Please don't kick him out. He's totally fine. And so then when she found out he was here, the next day she brought him 3 bags of groceries.
Awesome.
She's cooked him muffins and brought it. He feels almost weird about it.
Right.
But he loves it. And he's gone over and weeded for her and stuff just out of the kindness of his heart. When no one's around, he's not doing it as a job. But now so here's a guy who's working full time. It's very normal, whatever that is. No addictions, no disabilities, all his faculties. And he's forced to live in an RV in the alley of a church. And he's doing really well.
But those are atypical circumstances.
Yes.
To put it dryly.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to do now, the problem is the cities who also want to help, they have their hands tied with regulations and permits. And so I've gone from a community-based nomadic communities. I've actually turned that nonprofit over to another person, and we've made it dormant because I've realized after 2 years of fighting and meeting with mayors and police chiefs and city councils and everything, they all want it to happen. They love it. One of them even tentatively offered me a piece of land in Martinez to do it on for free.
That's right.
Yeah. But then when we start digging into the details, they realize that they're setting themselves up for liability because there's no laws covering this, or there's laws that appear would go against it.
Right.
And so they cancel everything. And so I spent 2 years beating my head against the wall, and I decided what I'm going to do now is something we originally called the Faith Initiative, but I'm trying to follow some of the models I've seen where we'll get shelters onto faith campuses. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be a faith campus, but that's typically the people that will have the heart to do it, right? You're not going to have Walmart say, let's put up a couple of shelters. No offense to Walmart, but that's not what they're there for. But and then network with other faith leaders in the area that want to do the same thing. And I'm already very heavily networked in Pleasant Hill because this is where the church is. And so what we're trying to do is to get permission for me to do it here on site first, so we can get the
testing grounds.
We can get the special zoning ordinance permission. We can have a case to say, look, this worked. Those kinds of things. I even found a company called Pallet Shelter. They don't make shelters out of pallets, so it's a weird name, but they're wonderful. They're out of Washington. They've basically told me they'll do the research to get me shelters for free here because the Governor Newsom has been very generous. He has a heart for homelessness. Yeah. And but I can't get permission from the city to make it happen. And even the city wants to make it happen. They've sent their building inspectors out here for free for me. They offered it to consult. They gave me some tips. They've been great, but that's where it ends. I don't understand.